Okay, everybody, we're about to embark on a new journey here. This is 1 Samuel chapter 1. 1 Samuel chapter 1. The birth of Samuel. There was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Zophite from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tahu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had two wives, one was called Hannah and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. Year after year, this man went up from his town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, while Hophni and Phinehas, the two sons of Eli, they're the sons of the high priest, who was Eli at the time, were priests of the Lord. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of meat to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But Hannah he gave a double portion, because he loved her, and the Lord had closed her womb. Because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. Her husband Elkanah would say to her, "Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons?" Once, when they had finished eating and drinking at Shiloh, Hannah stood up. Now Eli the priest was sitting on his chair by the doorpost of the Lord's house. In her deep anguish, Hannah prayed to the Lord, weeping bitterly, and she made a vow, saying, "Lord Almighty, if you will only look on your servant's misery and remember me, and not forget your servant, but give her a son, then I will give him to the Lord for all the days of his life, and no razor will ever be used on his head." As she kept on praying to the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. Eli thought she was drunk, and she said to her, it's so funny to me that Eli thought that first. Like, I think we see that all the time. Like, I know people who love to pray at my church who would do the same thing. I don't know if Eli was just used to his sons being drunk or what, but it's just funny to me that Eli went there first, but whatever. Eli thought she was drunk and said to her, "How long are you going to stay drunk? Put away your wine." "Not so, my lord," Hannah replied. "I am a woman who is deeply troubled. I have not been drinking wine or beer. I was pouring out my soul to the Lord. Do not take your servant for a wicked woman. I have been praying here out of my great anguish and grief." Eli answered, "Go in peace, and may the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him." She said, "May your servant find favor in your eyes." And then she went her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's a couple of things that just kind of occurred to me that seemed to have like a lot of weight in the Old Testament, and maybe just in general. Maybe there's things that we we kind of chalk up to superstition, or we chalk up to like ancient times that actually like are or that are actually like God's power and his power alone. So like giving birth to a child, we attribute that often to just natural, fertility, right? But it really does seem like God throughout Scripture makes it clear that like he's the one who opens wombs and shuts them, or like a curse or a blessing. Like in this case, Eli blesses Hannah, and of course he's the high priest, so maybe his blessings and curses have a little extra punch. I don't know how God does that. It doesn't seem like Eli necessarily deserved it because he had very ungodly sons, but maybe he was a godly man and he just had really bad sons. Hard for me to tell. Blessings and curses and wombs. They all seem to really like have a connection to the divine that maybe we don't give credit to in like modern society. I don't know, take it or leave it. It's not like I'm gonna die on that hill, but I think it is worth kind of thinking over. It's kind of hard to deny in some ways. Let's see. Go in peace. May the God of Israel grant you what you have asked of him. And she said, may your servant find favor in your eyes. And then she went on her way and ate something, and her face was no longer downcast. Early the next morning they arose and worshipped before the Lord, and then went back to their home at Ramah. Elkanah made love to his wife Hannah, and the Lord remembered her. So, in the course of time, Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son, and she named him Samuel, saying, because I asked the Lord for him. And Hannah dedicates Samuel. When her husband Elkanah went up with all his family to offer the annual sacrifice to the Lord and to fulfill his vow, Hannah did not go. She said to her husband, after the boy is weaned, I will take him and present him before the Lord, and he will live there always. Do what seems best to you, her husband Elkanah told her. He's a wise man in that, right? That's probably not a conversation you want to get in an argument with your wife about. Stay here until you have weaned him. Only may the Lord make good his word. So the woman stayed at home and nursed her son until she had weaned him. And after he was weaned, she took the boy with her, young as he was, along with a 3-year-old bowl, an ephah of flour, and a skin of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh. Talk about just taking everything. She's not holding back at all. Man, like that's convicting for me, because I often feel like I hold back from God. When the bull had been sacrificed, they brought the boy to Eli, and she said to him, pardon me, my lord. As surely as you live, I am the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord. I prayed for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. So now I have given him to the Lord. For his whole life he will be given over to the Lord, and he worshipped the Lord there. Now this is Hannah's prayer, chapter 2. Then Hannah prayed, my heart rejoices in the Lord, and the Lord my horn is lifted high. My mouth boasts over my enemies, for I delighted I delight in your deliverance. There is no one holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God. Do not keep talking so proudly or let your mouth speak such arrogance, for the Lord is a God who knows, and by him deeds are weighed. Convicting verse, right? No reason to be arrogant. God knows the heart. The bows of the warriors are broken, but those who stumbled are armed with strength. Those who were full hired themselves out for food, but those who were hungry are hungry no more. She who was barren has borne 7 children, and she bears 6 total, I think, which is pretty awesome. Maybe it's 7 though, who knows? We'll read more. She who is barren has borne 7 children, but she who has had many sons pines away. The Lord brings death and makes alive. He brings down the grave and raises up. The Lord sends poverty and wealth. He humbles and he exalts. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap. He seats them with princes and has them inherit a throne of honor. For the fountains of the Lord are the Lord's, and on them he set the world. That's a pretty cool verse. It's very poetic. For the foundations of the earth are the Lord's, on them he sets the world. He will guard the feet of his faithful servants, but the wicked will be silenced in the place of darkness. It is not by strength that one prevails. Those who oppose the Lord will be broken. The Most High will thunder from heaven. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed. Then Elkanah went home to Ramah, but the boy ministered before the Lord under Eli the priest. Now, this is about Eli's wicked sons. Eli's sons were scoundrels. They had no regard for the Lord. You kind of notice the difference in purity of Hannah and her offering her newborn son, basically, right? And now you see Eli's sons. Quite the contrast. They had no regard for the Lord. Now it was the practice of the priests that whenever the people offered a sacrifice, the priest's servants would come with a 3-pronged fork in his hand while the meat was being boiled, and would plunge the fork into the pan or kettle, cauldron, or pot. Whatever the fork would bring up, the priest would take for himself. This is how they treated all the Israelites who came to Shiloh. But even before the fat was burned, the priest's servant would come and say to the person who was sacrificing, "Give the priest some meat to roast. He won't accept boiled meat from you, but only raw." If the person said to him, "Let the fat be burned first, and then take whatever you want," the servant would answer, "No, hand it over now. If you don't, I'll take it by force." Kind of reminds me of the Honorable Sheriff of Nottingham in the animated version of Robin Hood. We got he's supposed to be honorable, right? But he's robbing from the poor, right? And that's what these sons of Eli are doing. They're just robbing from the poor. This sin of the young men was very great in the Lord's sight, for they were treating the Lord's offering with contempt. And obviously it's even worse because it's an offering to God. But Samuel was ministering before the Lord. A boy wearing a linen ephod. Each year his mother made him a little robe and took it to him when he went up with her husband to offer the annual sacrifice. You can kind of see just the care and the diligence this mother is putting in, and how much she probably gloried in giving his son like a new garment that like fit him um, better because he's growing, right? Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife, saying, "May the Lord give you children by this woman to take the place of the one she prayed for and gave to the Lord." Then they would go home, and the Lord was gracious to Hannah. She gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel grew up in the presence of the Lord. So, yeah, that's 6 children, including Samuel. Now Eli, who was very old, heard about everything his sons were doing to all of Israel, and how they slept with the women who served at the entrance of the tent of meeting. So he said to them, "Why do you do such things? I hear from all the people about these wicked deeds of yours. No, my sons, the report I hear spreading among the Lord's people is not good. If one person sins against another, God may mediate for the offender, but if anyone sins against the Lord, who will intercede for him?" His sons, however, did not listen to their father's rebuke, for it was the Lord's will to put them to death. And the boy Samuel continued to grow in stature and in favor with the Lord and with his people. So there's the contrast again. God's already made his choice about Eli's sons and how they have fallen out of the grace of God, how they've taken advantage of the people of God. And meanwhile, Samuel's growing up, and he is basically growing in favor with the Lord and with his people, like a perfect contrast with Eli's sons. Prophecy against the house of Eli. Now a man of God came to Eli and said to him, this is funny, he's a man of God, he's not a prophet. I was wondering how this works. So just a man of God comes up to Eli and says, "This is what the Lord says. Did I not clearly reveal myself to your ancestors' family when they were in Egypt under Pharaoh?" And the answer is yes, of course. "I chose your ancestor out of all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, Aaron, right? To go up to my altar to burn incense and to wear an ephod in my presence. I also gave you ancestors. Give your ancestors' family and all the food offerings presented by the Israelites. Why do you scorn my sacrifice and offering that I prescribed for my dwelling? Why do you honor your sons more than me by fattening yourselves on the choice parts of everything made by my people Israel? Every offering made by my people Israel." Yeah, I mean, you gotta think if they're doing that with every offering, or even every other offering, they've gotta be getting pretty fat, pretty overweight. And later it even says Eli was overweight. So you wonder if they're just following their dad's example, or maybe taking their dad's patterns even to a greater extreme than Eli. It doesn't say here, but I think you could picture that, and it wouldn't be totally off. There's a way you could justify that point of view. "Therefore the Lord, the God of Israel, declares, I promised that the members of your family would minister before me forever. But now the Lord declares, far be it from me, those who honor me I will honor, but those who despise me will be disdained. The time is coming when I will cut short your strength and the strength of your priestly house, that no one in it will reach old age, and you will see distress in my dwelling. Although God will be distress. I'm sorry. Although God will be done to Israel, no one in your family line will ever reach old age. Every one of you that I do not cut off from serving at my altar, I will spare only to destroy your sight and sap your strength. To destroy your sight. Okay, I was thinking the wrong sight. To destroy your sight and sap your strength. So take away your actual physical sight and sap your strength, and all your descendants will die in the prime of life. And what happens to your sons? Hophni and Phinehas, will be assigned to you. They will both die on the same day, and I will raise up for myself a faithful priest. This is quite the prophecy by just a godly man. It doesn't say a prophet, it's just a godly man who's sharing this with Eli. I will raise up for myself a faithful priest who will do according to what is in my heart and mind, and I will firmly establish his priestly house, and they will minister before my anointed one always. Oh, and by the way, Eli, remember that godly woman who you said was drunk while she was praying? She's the mother, and you're actually raising that kid in your own house right now. He's the one who's going to replace you as a Holy One of Israel. Then everyone left in your family line will come and bow down before him for a piece of silver and a loaf of bread, and plead, appoint me to some priestly office so I can have food to eat. The Lord calls to Samuel, chapter 3. The boy Samuel ministered before the Lord under Eli. In those days the word of the Lord was rare, and there were not many visions. One night Eli, whose eyes were becoming so weak that he could barely see, was lying down in his usual place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the house of the Lord where the ark of God was. Then the Lord said to Samuel, Samuel answered, Here I am. And he ran to Eli and said, Here I am, you called me. But Eli said, I did not call. Go back and lie down. And he went and lay down. Again the Lord called Samuel. And Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, Here I am. You called me? My son, Eli said, I did not call. Go back and lie down. Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. A third time the Lord called, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, Here I am. You called me. Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. So Eli told Samuel, Go and lie down, and if he calls to you, say, Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. So Samuel went and lay down in his place. The Lord came. That's cool that Eli said that instead of just going, boy, you're hearing voices or something, right? I think there's evidence to show that Eli was also not totally gone. Like, he was a man, he was a human, right? But like, he rebuked his sons openly and boldly, and then gives Samuel good advice here, right? He picks up that the Lord is talking to him and gives him good advice. So Samuel went and lay down in his place, and the Lord came and stood there, calling as at the other time, Samuel, Samuel. And then Samuel said, Speak, for your servant is listening. And the Lord said to Samuel, "See, I am about to do something in Israel that will make the ears of everyone who hears about it tingle. And at the time I will carry out against Eli everything I spoke against his family from beginning to end. For I told him that I would judge his family forever because of the sin he knew about. His sons blasphemed God, and he failed to restrain them." And that's an indictment that God makes. And from God's perspective, it looks like Eli didn't do enough. So obviously, I'm not the authority. I'm going to give authority to God on that one. "Therefore I swore to the house of Eli, the guilt of Eli's house will never be atoned for by sacrifice or offering." Samuel lay down until morning and then opened the doors of the house of the Lord. He was afraid to tell Eli the vision, but Eli called him and said, "Samuel, my son." Samuel answered, "Here I am." "What was it that he said to you?" And Eli asked, "Do not hide it from me. May God deal with you, be it ever so severely, if you hide from me anything he told you." So Samuel told him everything, hiding nothing from him. And then, can you imagine how hard that would be for a young man to say to the man that raised him, pretty much? "He is the Lord," Samuel says. "Let him do what is good in his eyes." And again, this is where my compassion goes out to Eli, because obviously he's just a man, and that sounds like a humble man in my estimation. I'm sure obviously he fell short in some pretty significant ways, but I don't hear resentment there. I hear maybe resignation. Alright, so the Lord was with Samuel as he grew up, and he let none of Samuel's words fall to the ground. And all Israel from Dan to Beersheba, you recognize that Samuel was attested as a prophet of the Lord. People recognized it everywhere, young and old. The Lord continued to appear at Shiloh, and there he revealed himself to Samuel through his word, and Samuel's word came to all of Israel. Alright, the Philistines capture the ark. Maybe I shouldn't have read that heading, but now the Israelites went out to fight against the Philistines. The Israelites camped at Ebenezer and the Philistines at Aphek. And what we're going to see right now is that, God looks at the heart. And we often just treat him like a symbol, or like the little things that we do matter more than our hearts. You're about to see for yourself what I mean by that. The Philistines deployed their forces to meet Israel, and at the battle spread, Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 of them on the battlefield. When the soldiers returned to the camp, the elders of Israel asked, "Why did the Lord bring defeat on us before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the Lord's covenant from Shiloh, so that he may go with us and save us from the hand of our enemies." So they're treating the ark of the covenant of the Lord, they're treating it like a good luck charm, basically. I think that's fair to say. Not much better than a baseball player would, treat certain rituals as good luck, right? Let's just get the ark. we'll win if we have the ark. So the people sent men to Shiloh, and they brought back the ark of the covenant of the Lord, who is enthroned between the cherubim, and Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. And when the ark of the Lord's covenant came into the camp, all Israel raised such a great shout that the ground shook. Hearing the uproar, the Philistines asked, "What's all this shouting in the Hebrew camp?" And it's funny because they're about to be freaked out too. They thought that it was real. They thought they were toast. And Israel was clearly convinced that that was the case. But God looks at deeper things, right? They ask, what is all this shouting in the Hebrew camp? The Philistines ask. And when they learned that the ark of the Lord came into the camp, the Philistines were afraid. "A god has come into the camp," they said. "Oh no, nothing like this has ever happened to us before. We're doomed. Who will deliver us from the hand of these mighty gods? They're the gods who struck the Egyptians with all the kinds of plagues in the wilderness." You see how that legend still lives on. "Be strong, Philistines, be men, or you will be subject to the Hebrews as they have been to you. Be men and fight." So the Philistines fought, and the Israelites were defeated, even with the ark, right? And the slaughter was very great. Israel lost 30,000 foot soldiers. The ark of God was captured, and Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, died. And that goes with the godly man who told that prophecy to Eli, right? That both of his sons would die before they reached old age. And now, the death of Eli, the same day a Benjamite ran from the battle line and went to Shiloh with his clothes torn and dust on his head. When he arrived, there was Eli sitting on his chair by the side of the road, watching, because his heart feared for the ark of God. And there again, I feel for Eli. I don't know if I'm just bad for seeing these things, but I just can't help but feel bad for Eli. When the man entered the town and told what had happened, the whole town sent up a cry. And Eli heard the outcry and asked, "What is the meaning of this uproar?" The man hurried over to Eli, who was 90 years old, and whose eyes had failed, so that he could not see. And he told Eli, "I've just come from the battle line. I fled from it this very day." And Eli asked, "What happened, my son?" The man who brought the news replied, "Israel fled before the Philistines, and the army has suffered great losses. Also, your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God has been captured." As if Israel losing wasn't enough, then it's both of your sons are dead, and the ark is captured, right? And that was the main thing that he was nervous about. He was nervous for the ark, you know. When he mentioned the ark of God, Eli fell backward off his chair by the side of the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died. For he was an old man, and he was heavy. He had led Israel 40 years. And his daughter-in-law, the wife of Phinehas, was pregnant near that time of delivery when he heard the news that the ark of God had been captured, that her father-in-law and her husband were dead. Now she's hearing even more bad news, right? Because her brother-in-law is dead, her husband's dead, Israel has lost the battle, and the ark is gone, right? So just four things, boom, 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 for her. She's a pregnant woman, she gives birth, and then she is overcome by labor pains. As she was dying, the woman attendant, who were attending her said, "Don't despair, you've given birth to a son." But she did not respond or pay any attention. She named the boy Ichabod, saying, "The glory is departed from Israel," because of the capture of the Ark of God and the deaths and her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, "The glory is departed from Israel, for the Ark of God has been captured." Chapter 5, the Ark in Ashdod and Ekron. After the Philistines had captured the Ark of God, they took it from Ebenezer to Ashdod, and then they carried the Ark into Dagon's temple and set it beside Dagon. Dagon's obviously a pagan god, right? When the people of Ashdod arose early the next day, there was Dagon fallen on his face on the ground before the Ark of the Lord. They took Dagon and put him back in his place. But the following morning, when they rose, there was Dagon fallen on his face on the ground before the Ark of the Lord. I don't remember this story. His head and his hands had broken off. Maybe I do a little bit, and were lying on the threshold. Only his body remained. That is why to this day neither the priests of Dagon nor any others who entered Dagon's temple at Ashdod step on the threshold. The Lord's hand was heavy on the people of Ashdod and its vicinity, and he brought devastation on them and afflicted them with tumors. When the people of Ashdod saw that what was happening, they said, "The ark of the God of Israel must not stay here with us, because his hand is heavy on us and on Dagon our God." So that reminds me of Isaiah that talks about, like, there's this amazing depiction of, like, pagan gods in the book of Isaiah, where it's like you carve a god out of wood, and then with the log from that same, or with the wood from that same log that you carved the god, you throw the rest of that remaining wood in the fire and warm yourself with it, kind of just showing how silly, like, idols are. Anyway, the Ark of God of Israel must not stay here. What shall we do with the Ark of the God of Israel? And they answered, "Have the Ark of the God of Israel moved to Gath." Gath. Who's from Gath, right? Goliath in, I would guess, like 50 more years. So they moved the Ark of God of Israel, but after they had moved it, the Lord's hand was against that city, throwing it into a great panic, and he afflicted the people of Israel, both young and old, with an outbreak of tumors. So they sent the Ark of God to Ekron, it's moved to 3 cities now. And the people of Ekron cried out, "They have brought the Ark of the God of Israel around us to kill us and our people." So, pretty uniform response of all Philistines to the Ark, right? They're not huge fans of having this Ark close to them. So they called together all the rulers of the Philistines and said, "Send the Ark of God of Israel away. Let it go back to its own place, or it will kill us and our people." For death had filled the city with panic, and God's hand was very heavy on it. Those who did not die were afflicted with tumors, and the outcry of the city went up to heaven. All right. That's our longest reading yet. I think I might end up doing more readings that are long. Man, just to be straight up with you guys, I won't be too belabored, but like, I just sense that I need to keep doing this. I feel an urging to keep doing it, and even just for my own sake, if no one else. I've got to keep reading this word and let it penetrate my heart. And so just allow me to pray again. Lord, I just pray that even more than the humility of Eli, Lord, that you would give us pure hands and a clean heart like Samuel and like Hannah. Show us how to be purely devoted. And show us how to not treat you like a good luck charm. Think of that worship song that my church often sings, Lord, clean hands and a pure heart, God. You will have my praise, Lord. We need you, Lord. It's only by your grace that we can be pure. Make our hearts pure again, Lord, and so that we choose you and not other things, not other gods, not other desires. In your holy name, amen. All right, I'll pick it up in chapter 6 soon. Thanks again, guys. Catch you later.